Okay, so the topic that we're going to study today is Turing machine. So in the background, you can see an image of a Turing machine. This image I have seen in a movie called Imitation Game. In Imitation Game, uh, the movie is all about Alan Turing, who made this Turing machine. Okay, so in that movie, the time duration is that of the World War I, and there to solve the Germans' Enigma code, the Alan Turing with his fellow mathematicians, he tried to make a machine to solve that code. So that's how this machine came into existence and became the abstract model for computation. So because of this machine, now you can say that various things or the things are computable. Okay, so let's see a more defined architecture which we generally use now as a computer. So on the basis of this abstract model, our computers that we use today is designed. Okay, so here you can see that this is the machine architecture that was then rebuilt, that was then enhanced. Okay, so this is again an older version, but I will try to show you this so that you get a brief idea. So here is what you see, the Turing tape. This is more important when you're studying the abstract model. Okay, so you can see it is in a circular shape, and this can move either right or left. Okay, then you have a transition table over here that we're going to make in our solve when we'll be solving our Turing machine examples. We'll be making this transition table. So this transition table is basically the CPU connections that was done at that time. Okay, there is an operating system over here, there's random memory access over here, and there is a database for the transfer of data, and finally a power supply. So this is the actual representation of the machine architecture that we use now. We have memory, we have CPU, and we have a memory where we can read and write, right? So initially we had this Turing tape. So we're going to work with this a lot because in our abstract model we have a Turing tape and a reading head, which is over here. Can you see? This is the reading head. So it can move in the right direction as well as in the left direction. Okay, so various people have used Turing machines in other fields also, like in chemical reactions. So suppose an input is given like this, you have done NFA, DFA, and PDA. So we definitely give a string and we see whether the string is recognized or not. Similarly, over here we have given a definite pattern of input like AB, AB, and we are observing that them at a time t, 2t, 3t till nt. So at a particular time, what is the accepted expected output is called the accept state, and if it is behaving in some other way, then it is called the reject state. So for every state we have an accept and a reject space. So this is one model that they have derived via Turing machine. So Turing machine is basically a model, you can apply it anywhere. It basically tells you that there is an infinite tape which can be used to solve a particular problem. So basically, what we had in an FA was a simple automata without any storage. In a PDA, we had a finite automata with one stack. Whereas in a Turing machine, we have a finite automata with two stacks. Because with two stacks, you can use a stack as a stack as well as you can use a stack as a queue. So that is what they have taken into consideration and made this machine. Okay, so now we'll move ahead to the formal definition of the Turing machine. So Turing machine is defined by these seven tuples. So let's first see how, what is the main thing that we need to remember. Okay, so this is the portion that we use in the abstract model. So this is your tape in the length that you can see where x's and ones are written. This is the tape. These are the tape movers so that the tape can slide through it. Okay, this is basically the logic controller. Through the logic controller is basically our automata that we're going to design, who will decide whether to move right or whether to move left on the tape. So this is very clear. Since I've shown you the actual diagram, you know that it is a rotatory system and it can move right or left. So this is what your read or write head would look like. So on the tape, either you can write some symbol or you can read from it. Okay, say some blank spaces, so I can write over here or I can read from it. So a tape reader can read as well as write on the tape. A tape is an infinite length, and we always have a start state to start for this logical control, the automata that we're going to make. So this is how the basic structure looks, and this is how your machine is going to look. It will have a tape and a reader. Okay, so now we'll see the tuples. So your first is your queue, that is the set of finite state as it was there in an FA or a PDA. Then there is an input symbol. So whatever the input string is, those contents are your input symbol. So say A B B A is your string. So A and B are your input symbol. Blank will never be a part of an input symbol. Okay, because input string you'll never give ABB blank ABB like that you won't give. So input alphabet mean blank doesn't come. The third is a tape alphabet. In PDA it was a stack alphabet. Over here it is a tape alphabet. So tape alphabet could be, you have already seen, it could be any input from the input symbol, because if you're trying to match and read, then it could be a input symbol, or it could be blank spaces. Okay, so in tape alphabet can contain the input alphabet. So input is a subset of the tape symbols, and blank is also a subset of the tape symbol. So blank can be present on the tape. So tape alphabet includes both the input symbol as well as blank. Q0 Q0 is your start state. B is your blank symbol for representing blank symbols. F is a set of final state. And finally, this transition is what changes from machine to machine, right? So for FA and DFA, the transition was different. For PDA, it was different. And for Turing machine, what we have, for every state on every tape alphabet, you move to a certain state. You can change the alphabet, or you can transit to the same alphabet and either move left or move right. So this is very important. From every state on every tape alphabet, you move to another state, you you move to the same state or another state, you change the alphabet or remain it same, or you move left and right. That is the main part of the Turing machine. So that's how those are the 7 tuples through which you will define your Turing machine. Okay. So the value of any transition q comma x is either undefined or is a triplet consisting of this pattern. Okay, so a new state, the replacement symbol, and the direction, that is left and right for the head motion. Okay, so that's a formal definition of the Turing machine. Now we'll go ahead and see an example. So I'm going to explain you the concept of the Turing machine via analogy. Okay, so suppose there's one boy who doesn't know how to count. Okay, so he doesn't know how to count, so he cannot count anything, but he has been given a job. Okay, what is the job that has been given to? There are two rooms, room 1 and room 2, full of boxes. In room 1 there are n number of boxes, and in room 2 there are also n number of boxes, but he doesn't know how to count. But he has to verify whether the number of boxes in this room is equal to the number of boxes in this room. How will he able to do it? Okay, so that person doesn't know how to count. So what he will do, he will pull out one box from here and he'll pull out one box from here and keep it. So there's one pair, so he knows right now it is equal. Another step he'll go, he'll push this one over here, push this one over here, till all the boxes gets empty. This is one way, but it is requiring too much physical work. Every time he has to pick up and place it in one place to see whether he's getting a pair or not. But then he doesn't want to do so much physical work, so he uses his brain. He says, why not to mark the boxes with something, right? So he goes to room 1 and he doesn't know how to read that appliances and dish bags. He just puts a red cross over the box over here. And he goes to the other room and crosses some box with cross on the room 2. Again he goes to room 1, put a cross, goes to room 2, put a cross, goes to room 3, put a cross, goes to room 2, put a cross. He'll keep doing this till the time all the boxes are finished in room 1 as well as in room 2. So if there are no boxes left in room 2, then what does it mean? That has he has equal number of boxes in room 1 and room 2. करेक्ट? तो करना क्या है, रूम 1 के बॉक्सेस और रूम 2 के बॉक्सेस उसने कैसे कंपेयर किए? ही कंपेयर्ड इट by putting a mark on it. That is exactly what your Turing machine does. It can move to the right hand side of the room, or to the room on the right hand side, or it can move to the room on the left hand side, and it will compare via changing the initial alphabets to something else. Okay, so let's see it with an example. So suppose this is your initial string that is being given. So initially we have two blanks, and then the input string is there, and in the end also there are blanks. So whenever on the right hand side and the left hand side of the string there are always blanks, because this is empty, right? So what we are doing, we are going to read it via the read head. We are not writing anything, we're just reading right now. Okay, so first thing, we'll receive a blank. So till the time it keeps receiving a blank, it feels it is not getting any input. So another blank, it will move on. Then it will receive a first A. So this problem is something like the box problem that we have seen before. So this is your room number 1, and this is your room number 2. In room number 1, all boxes are named A. In room number 2, all boxes are named B. So this is a problem of equal number of A's and equal number of B's. So you have to make a Turing machine that recognizes equal number of A's followed by equal number of B's. So how you will check whether equal number of A's and B's are present? That is your problem. Okay. So first you encounter an A. As soon as you encounter, so he goes to room 1, he finds a box and put an X over it, right? So whenever you encounter an A, you put an X over it, and you move to the next room, leaving all the remaining boxes in room 1 only. You go to room 2, and you make a change for the box. You again mark it with something. Okay, so see over there I have marked it with a yellow cross, and over here with a red cross. Over here I am marking Y with B's. Again after conversion of B to Y, I'll move to the left again. So first I moved to right, went to the room number 2, made a cross, again came to the left hand side room. So again I moved left, and then what I did, again I checked, oh, I have put cross on this. So I'll move right, take another box and make a cross. Again I'll go to the other room, find a box where Y is not mentioned, make it Y. Again move left, check, oh, this is X. Okay, what is the remaining box? This one. Again make it X. And again move right till I find a box which is not labeled. Again I'll label it Y. So this is how I'll check. Okay, so in the next step, what will actually happen is, after I move to Y, after I receive the Y, I'll move this head. This head will go on from here to find an A, but it will not be able to find, it will directly find a blank. So it will traverse all the X and the Y. But this tells you that the X are finished or the A's are finished. It doesn't tells you that the Y's are finished. So again from here, it will again move till this. It will traverse the whole X and Y's and travel till this blank. So now you will know that all the B's are also finished, right? So to the analogy, after he comes in this room and marks this last box as Y, it will he go to this room and check all the boxes. Okay, all are X. So this blank he'll encounter. Then again he'll traverse all the boxes, comes to Y, traverse all the boxes, checks the last box and checks. Okay, he'll receive a blank. That means all the boxes of this room are also covered. Hence, there were equal number of boxes in the room 1 and room 2. That is how your Turing machine works. So again, we'll see this with the help of same example I'm going to take, that is triple A and triple B, and how our Turing machine will look. So first is your initial state, that is Q0. From Q0, blank blank to, you're not going to get anything. As soon as you get an A, what do? I convert it into an X and move right. So that is what I'm going to write. I'm Input is A. What I'm going to convert it into, I'm converted into X, and what I'm doing, I'm moving right. I move right till I get a B. Okay, so I'll move to state Q1, and what do I get? I get a B, and I convert it into Y and then move left. So, but remember, while I'm moving from A to B, what do I found in between? I found A's in between. So I have to make a self loop for A. So after the first A which has been converted into X, if any number of A's come, you let those A's be as it is and keep moving right till you encounter a B, right? So that I have kept over here. So first A I have converted into X and I have moved right, and then I found a second A. So I have left that A as it is and keep moving right. This second A I've got, again I kept it as it is and keep moving right till I encountered a B. As soon as I encountered a B, I convert it into Y, and then I keep moving left till I get the first X, right? So that's how it is going to work. So now, now suppose while you've converted this first A into X and you traverse and converted this into Y. Again, you traversed over here, converted this A into X. Now you have two X's. Okay. When you traverse now, you'll get a Y also before you reach a B, right? This is converted into Y. Before you reach a B, you will encounter an Y also. So any number of A's and Y, if you encounter in the way, if you encounter a Y, you let it be Y itself and keep moving right till you get a B. So that production will also come over here. Okay. Now you'll reach Q3 stage. So we kept moving left till we got an X, and while moving from here to this stage again, what do I get? I get any number of A's. Till do I keep moving left till I get an X, right? And I get any number of Y also. So suppose this I've converted into Y and I'm searching for X. So till here the X would be there. So I'll keep moving. I'll get a Y in between and I'll get a A in between. So let it be A itself, let it be Y itself, and you keep moving left. Okay. Now the next is, if after Y you get an X. Okay, so what is this situation? This is the last situation. Okay, so this has been converted to, this A is converted to X, then I go over here, this Y, B is converted to Y, again come over here X, then Y, again come over here X, and then Y. Again when I traverse, I cannot find an A. After a Y, I just found an X. So after a Y, when you found an X, you remain at X only and keep moving right. Why I am moving right? I have already told you. If you get a X consecutive to a Y, you keep moving right till you get a blank. Okay. So I keep moving right till I get a blank. So I keep moving. If I get an X, I keep taking X, keep taking X, and keep moving right. Okay. And if I get a Y, I keep taking Y and keep moving. Okay. So this process goes on for, if I get an X, then I replace it. This process is basically how it happens after. So I'm going to traverse this string again and let you know. Okay. A. So A over here converted into X, and I'll move right. Then what I'll get? I'll get an A. So I'll just let that A be as it is. I'll move to next A. Next A, let it be as it is. I'll get a B. B, I'll convert it into Y and I'll move left. As soon as I move left, I'll encounter an A. I'll let that A be as it is and I'll move left. Again, I'll move left. I'll get an A. I'll let this A be as it is and move left. Now I'll get an X, which I have originally been done. So when I get an X, what do? I convert it into, I let it be X and move right. So I move right over here. So this is the portion where you go from, you make a Y and then you come over here, check if I have an X, and then again you move right, and then you do this whole process again of converting the A into X, going till B converting into Y, then again traversing left till you get an X remaining as it is, and then you go right. Okay, so this goes on. Finally, what you will get, your all Y's are over, and you'll keep moving. So your X will remain X is it, and then you will remain, all the Y's will be finished, and you'll get a blank. So when you get a blank, you remain, let the blank be as it is and move left. So you will know that you have reached the final state. So if anyone has confusion in this, I'll be putting up an example number 2, where you'll be able to do this in a much better way. I'll just be able I'll just explain you one more string to understand it more better. Okay, so these are the inputs which will not be accepted by this automata, right? So it is double A triple B. So it is not an automata of equal number of A's and equal number of B's, but we have made an automata of equal number of A's and equal number of B's. So this will go into a rejection state, right? So what we'll do, for the first A will convert into X, and we'll move what? We'll move right. We'll get an A. We'll let the A be as it is and move right. We'll go to B. As soon as we encounter a B, we convert it into Y. We convert it into Y and move left. When I move left, I encounter a A again, so I'll let it be as it is, and I move left. When I move left, I'll get a what? Y. I'll get a what? X. Okay. I'll get an X, and I'll let that X be as it is and move right again. When I move right, I get an A. Again, I'll convert this A into X and move right. I'll get a Y. I'll let the Y be as it is and move right. When I move right, I'll get a B. I'll convert this B into Y and move left. When I move left, I'll encounter a Y. So I'll let it be as it is. I'll encounter an X. So I'll let it be as it is and move right. Now I'm expecting an A, but I didn't get an A. Okay. Or I could have expected a Y, but I didn't get a Y also. So this goes into rejection stage. So for the, always remember, for PDA and Turing machine, you always make states, those are acceptable states. For non-acceptable states, we don't draw anything. So any state which is reached, the string it is reached an unacceptable state, it will automatically be rejected because there's no state to transit to. Okay, so this was one example. The other example is this string. Okay, so we have triple A and double B. So what will happen? This will convert into X. We'll go right. This will convert into Y. Again, we'll come over here. We'll have an X. We'll go right. We'll make it X. Again, we'll go over here. We'll encounter A. Let it be A only. Encounter Y. We'll let it be Y only. We'll encounter B. We'll convert it into Y. And again, go left. Again, we'll get an X. We'll move right. We will get an A. We convert it into X and move right. We'll get a Y. We'll let it be Y and move right. We'll get a Y. We'll let it be Y only and move left. When we move left, what do we get? We get a Y. So we again let it be Y only, move left. Again, what we'll get? We'll get an A. We'll let the A be A only and move left. Right? From here. Again A, let it be A only, move left. Let it be A only, move left. Okay. Now we encounter a B. Okay. So we encounter a B, not an X or not a Y. So this goes into an unacceptable state, and this string will also get unaccepted. So this is the only string which is getting accepted, that is equal number of A's followed by equal number of B's. I hope you have understood this well. If you have not, I will put up a short video where I'll draw and show, so it will become more clear to you. Thank you.